Except where them hands, where them holes, where them throws, you know what I'm saying? Cecil.
I believe this is part 11. I'm going to have to find a way to really wrap this up because the series is getting a little long. And I'm tired of pop-ups. All right. So here they're talking, we already know what kata is if we're martial artists. And they're talking about how kata gives you the ability to link physical techniques so that you can visualize and practice them on command. Some traditional martial arts even develop deadly techniques which are too dangerous to be utilized full force. And then they talk about Mushin. If you don't know what Mushin is, look it up on Wikipedia. Wikipedia actually has the best definition of Mushin that I've ever seen on the internet. It's basically talking about going into the zone. But if you've been in a Japanese art, you probably don't know. I mean, you probably do know. Excuse me, what Mushin is. Here's the definition here. A warrior in Mushin is in complete control of his actions. He absorbs the tactical situation and reacts all without thought. The warrior in Mushin acts differently from will. Now, see, this is going to make us sound like we have Spider-Man-like powers, and some of us actually do, even though the naysayers don't believe it because they can't do it. This high level of consciousness allows the user to sense his opponents expertly while eliminating his own fears and perceived limitation, but it requires conditioned responses, years of training, and inability to silence the chatter of internal thoughts, and much practice in self-defense scenarios before martial artists can use it in a real confrontation. So I'm saying if the person don't have Mushin, then why are you trying to hem them up with these legal recommendations? Mixed martial arts. Okay, so with this, they're basically talking about how MMA is different. I'm not going to even get into this because you're just going to get mad, internet. The basic argument they have here is that MMA, even though it has martial arts moves, it is still a sport. Okay? And part of the problem, now they're going into the history of MMA in terms of pancreation. That's actually where it started. See, the MMA is really not new. The Gracies just brought it back. And they say here when the UFC was introduced into the United States, MMA caused a sharp decline in traditional disciplines like Aikido because of the alleged fanciful and practical nature of those styles. They said various kung fus and taekwondo. And they talk about how BJJ and jiu-jitsu, Thai boxing, and Western wrestling became more popular because they were in the Octagon. Those of us who may come to this channel already know that. Now, this is the thing that is worth reading. Despite the rapid growth and reform of MMA, most new fighters may remain ignorant of the law and are bound by no restraining principle, such as using minimum force in self-defense. For that reason, more fighters will likely appear in court if they apply their skills outside the octagon. Many people, including reckless ones like the defendant Torre, described in the opening anecdote, are now able to train in MMA. Yet they are taught the fighting techniques without the traditional martial arts value system, the legal standards of police officers, or other ways to responsibly use their training in non-sport settings. This is not because MMA fighters are more barbarians, and mostly because MMA, although a combat sport, is still a sport and is not primarily concerned with philosophy as traditional martial arts are. Notwithstanding the fact that both MMA fans and martial arts practitioners alike tend to adopt the training regimens and beliefs of winning fighters. Traditional martial arts values are not responsible for the tremendous growth and excitement in MMA. Instead, reality fighting is the name of the game, and that game does not focus on using the least amount of force necessary to subdue an opponent, as proportionality under self-defense doctrine requires. In other words, you're not taught that hold back. You don't drill control. That's why your teacher in a traditional background tells you control this, control that, control. So hopefully if you have to defend yourself, you can stop yourself from having to kill someone when you may not have to kill them. You will only respond with the appropriate amount of force necessary. Now this part talks about shared skills by traditional and mixed martial artists. Okay, and then they go into different styles. I'm not going to read all that because we all know what both have in common if we're on this channel. If you don't, please go and read the article. Okay? Using subjectivity in martial arts, since most martial artists train specifically for physical confrontations, adjusting to the law to account for martial arts abilities merely recognizes the responsibilities that comes with a great skill. Okay, this is saying what a jury can get out of learning a subjective analysis or a subjective way of evaluating martial artists. So this right here, this is an interesting quote. Now, I really don't have time or voice at this point to read. So I suggest you go to the article and type in face with a physical attack. Search for that. Because it's talking about how most people crumble in shock, but a warrior has to keep going. But the martial arts are all fighting systems designed for some kind of physical confrontation. Through practice and sport, martial arts hone the physical and mental skills to become fighting machines, and these skills are not left behind in the octagon, the dojo, or the gym. Although not invincible, we certainly are not. Martial artists have an edge in dictating the outcome of a physical confrontation. Yeah, with somebody that's not armed. Compared to untrained people, they are in better control of themselves during a confrontation and can apply their skills to subdue aggressors. And that's pretty much the whole point of all these videos, is that they're saying legally you are in better control, so you better have better control. That's basically what they're getting at. In the next part, we're going to get into the martial arts efficiency test as a new analysis for self-defense.